I was teaching at a women's conference a few weeks ago, and the theme, as is so typical for a women's conference, was the Everything Beautiful retreat. So I go about to study and prepare to preach at this conference, and I find out where that Everything Beautiful verse comes from. It comes from Ecclesiastes. And of course, I'm in this space where I'm thinking like, okay, they want me to preach on everything beautiful, but I've read the book of Ecclesiastes. The book of Ecclesiastes, if you've never read it, it's this dark, depressing book about not how everything is beautiful, but how about everything is depressing and terrible and literally over and over again, meaningless, meaningless, meaningless. So I was sitting there trying to hold these two things in my hand. Okay, I'm supposed to preach on the everything beautiful passage from Ecclesiastes, which says over and over again that everything is meaningless. So how can I preach on everything beautiful and everything meaningless? Well, thankfully, the Word of God doesn't contradict each other. So I found this beautiful verse within Ecclesiastes. It says, "He has made everything beautiful in its time," which that's the verse they wanted me to preach on. It's followed up by this second half of the verse. "He has also set eternity in the human heart, yet no one can fathom what God has done from beginning to end." So Solomon, the wisest man in the world, he wrote the book of Ecclesiastes, and he points out how meaningless life is and that there are beautiful things in life, and God brings beauty even out of hardships and great pain. He makes everything beautiful in its time, but there is something going on in the background that explains why everything is so meaningless. You see, the God of the universe, he is careful to not let us live under the illusion that this life is all there is. You see, if we were to toil and to achieve and only receive good things and great joy, we would constantly be succumbing to the illusion that this life is all there is. Rather, God has allowed frustration in our life. He has allowed work to end up in just striving after the wind, as Solomon writes. Why? Because he needs us to know that desire in our heart for a life of meaning, a life of beauty, a life of great value, it can be tasted in this life. But ultimately, we were made for the next life. Ultimately, we were made for a story where we don't have to experience meaningless toil. We don't have to experience pain upon pain and meaningless pursuit after meaningless pursuit. Rather, the pursuits in this life are simply to point us to the desire for the afterlife. That is what this verse means. He makes everything beautiful in its time, but he puts eternity in our hearts to know that this life is not all there is. So as I tried really carefully to thread that needle to the women and faithfully preach Ecclesiastes according to the theme that they had set, here's what I shared with those women. Meaning is not something that we can achieve. All of our efforts just result in a meaningless life. Meaning is not something we can achieve. Rather, meaning is something we must receive. It is a good gift from a good God that points ultimately to our destiny as human beings that were meant to live in an eternal relationship with the God of the universe, who knows our hearts, knows the goods that our hearts chase after, and is the only one ultimately who is able to give us a life of value, beauty, and meaning. Meaning is not something that you and I can achieve on our own. Rather, meaning is something that must be received from God. Food for thought. I hope that's helpful and encouraging to you.